brothers and sisters. This is AC coming to you again from the belly of the beast, always in pursuit of elevation and enlightenment. I give a warm welcome to my incarcerated brothers and sisters between the east and the west side of the mountains. Just know our fight continues on. The other day, I was posed with the question, how do we bring about the solidarity you are advocating for across races and between those who are incarcerated and those who are not? As I thought about how this would be possible, I decided to look into the movements of past time that also attempted to answer this question. When I think of solidarity, there are many movements that come into mind that should be considered as examples of what that should look like. I feel it is only necessary to take it back to the 1800s. Let's look at 1800 to 1848, where the involvement of women merged with the fight for the abolishment of slavery and were very prominent. Here it shows not only was racial equality being fought for, but also the issue of gender equality was being addressed. Where two women, one Katie Stanton and Lucretia Mott, decided to host a convention for women's rights in Seneca Falls, New York, after being slighted at an 1840 anti-slavery convention because they were women. This led to the signing of a declaration of sentiments by 68 women and 32 men, including Frederick Douglass. This was a culmination of unity demonstrated between racial and gender solidarity. Recognizing that the line that may divide us is artificially superficial when it comes to the causes that bring us together, such as race and gender. Now let's look at the 1950s to the 60s, the height of the civil rights movement. If we think about people like Jimmy Lee Jackson, Julia Hampton Morgan, Reverend James Reed, and Viola Gregg Liuzzo, and many other martyrs of the civil rights movement, they show us what solidarity looks like. These brave men and women decided to risk their lives for social equality. They shared a common belief that the color of your skin should not exclude you from being treated like a human being. The 1961 Freedom Riders also show what solidarity can accomplish within a short period of time. Over several months, they endured violence, harassment, and imprisonment. Just within those several months, their display of solidarity was enough to call to action the Kennedy administration that then applied the Interstate Commerce Commission to issue regulations prohibiting segregation in interstate transit terminals. The list goes on. And what this shows is whenever there is a call to action, the people will answer under the right guidance. Michelle Alexander has made a call to action with her book, The New Jim Crow. Cornel West says it is the best in his forward. I messed that part up. Okay. The list goes on. And what this shows is whenever there is a call to action, the people will answer under the right guidance. Michelle Alexander has made a call to action with her book, The New Jim Crow. Cornel West says it best in his foreword of her book. In the first sentence of his foreword, he says, Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow is the new secular Bible for a new social movement in the early 21st century of America. What history has shown us, along with the present LGBTQ, the Dreamers, the Black Lives Matter movement, and other current social movements, is that the commonality of opinion, feeling, and complete unity is the definition of solidarity. We don't have to have the same skin color to identify a social injustice. We don't have to be the immediately affected to recognize someone as being treated unfairly. All we need is the recognition of the social distress that affects the common ethic. To define common ethics, this best example I can give is the golden rule. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. This is what those before us fought for, the right to be treated fairly. The blueprint has been written over and over. The power of unity has stood the test of time and has prevailed, understanding that we are neighbors, friends, classmates, and co-workers. What affects some of us will eventually affect all of us. In order for us to come together to form solidarity, we must separate the focus on our differences and channel that which we have in common and use it to make a difference. One of the many things we have in common is the obvious. We are all human beings. Then take it a step further. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, regardless of your skin color. As a whole, we can hold our rights given to us and stand up for what is right, not allowing ourselves to accept nothing less than that what we have coming. Systemic racism and mass incarceration are very real. Each should affect our communities as a whole. Systemic racism introduces the idea that your path in life will be determined by the color of your skin, where mass incarceration is a result of systemic racism being merged into our criminal justice department. It is the type of society that we are condoning. Is this the type of society we are condoning and that we support? I know that Michelle Alexander would say emphatically no. She clearly states it throughout her book, The New Jim Crow. In order to develop solidarity within our communities, we must create a platform where we convey the importance of community unification, using this platform to appeal to the voice of reason that is deeply seated within every person, illustrating the effects of systemic racism, mass incarceration, and how they are connected. Look at the war on drugs and asking ourselves, was there really a war on drugs? Or was this nothing more than an attack of opportunity on the urban community? A solution to this mess that the war on drugs created would have been the pursuit of criminalization of drugs, which we have been seeing being more progressive in today's time. We can begin to manifest a new social movement that calls to put an end to mass incarceration, expose the systemic racism, and fight against bureaucracy that condones it. First, we create a space where those affected can voice their distaste for a flawed system, incarcerated or not. Second, channeling that energy into a constructive action, such as protesting against mandatory minimums and pushing for decriminalization of drugs. Third, educating our communities on the imbalance of our justice system and growing the ranks of the social movement. Michelle Alexander said, quote, "We must see the great distinction between a reform movement and a revolutionary movement," end quote. This is a revolutionary movement being birthed from inside the belly of the beast. We can no longer sit and hope that change will come. We must go out and make change happen. Unity is formed through the realization that an injustice to one affects all. The fight for equality didn't end with the civil rights movement. In fact, the civil rights movement and many others gave birth to a new pursuit for social equality, in which I bring you the phrase, the unified movement. The fight is no longer the same as it was in the 1800s, with the fight for the abolishment of slavery. It is on us as the new social movement to succeed through solidarity and invoke change. Together as a single unit, we can become something to write into the history books. We live in a world today where the people are tired of being discouraged, looked down on, or excluded to the outskirts of society. These are the men and women that will make an effort towards solidarity. Quote, "If we can agree that what is needed now at this critical juncture is not more tinkering or tokensome, but as King insisted 40 years ago, a radical reconstruction of our society, then perhaps we can also agree that a radical restructuring of our approach to racial justice advocacy is in order as well," end quote. These words were voiced by Michelle Alexander throughout her book. Knowing that the change doesn't happen overnight does not mean to be idle. The old saying, "You can never hit the target you don't shoot at," tells you that eventually I will hit the target I am aiming for. That target is given in the passage above. The idea of looking back and seeing how successful a movement can be when you have a multitude of people on the same page is what inspires me and should inspire you. Restructuring society and racial justice advocacy is a moving target. Yet if you get enough people shooting at them, a hit for one is a hit for all. W.E.B. Du Bois had this poem in the Book of Souls of Black Folk that said, quote, "O black boy of Atlanta, but half was spoken. The slave chains and the masters like are broken. The curse of the races held both in tether. They are rising. They are all rising, the black and white together," end quote. We are rising, and what we do, we'll do so in solidarity. Peace. This is your brother, AC, coming to you from the belly of the beast. I encourage you, my brothers and sisters out there in the fight, to continuously fight and keep pursuing forward, because that moving target is going to be hit, and one day we'll succeed at our task. Thank you.